The apartment was unnaturally silent, as if holding its breath. A soft mechanical click echoed through the corridor as Alexei turned the key and slowly pushed open the heavy door. It was late evening, and the city outside still pulsed with life, distant horns, footsteps, the soft hum of electricity. But inside, there was something else. A different kind of noise. A sound he wasn't supposed to hear. Well, he froze. It was faint, distant, almost muffled, but unmistakable laughter and low voices coming from the bedroom. His bedroom. Alexei's pulse spiked, but his face remained unreadable, honed by years of restraint. He was a man of order, of systems and schedules. His briefcase still dangled from his hand, the scent of airport terminals and stale coffee clinging to him. The trip wasn't supposed to end until tomorrow. No one knew he was home. He stepped inside silently, placing the keys on the marble console with precision. Then he pulled out his phone. The voices became clear, a woman's giggle, Victoria, and then lower, masculine, too familiar. The sound reached into him and twisted, cruel and sharp. His breath slowed, narrowed to a thin thread of control. He moved without sound toward the bedroom hallway, phone camera already recording. The door was ajar, enough to glimpse shadows dancing on the wall, sheets rustling. The unmistakable rhythm of betrayal. Victoria's voice, breathless. You always know how to make me laugh. And then the voice he never wanted to hear in this context, his brother's. Sergei. That's because I know all your secrets. Something broke inside Alexei, but he didn't flinch. The camera recorded everything. Two silhouettes tangled together, the intimacy unfiltered, unhidden, in the very space that once held promises and warmth. Ready to enter, didn't scream, didn't let them know. He backed away slowly, slipping into the shadows of the hallway like a ghost leaving its body. In the kitchen, he placed the phone gently on the counter and stopped recording. His hand trembled once, just once, before he opened the drawer and pulled out the small black notebook, leather-bound, his journal. Inside, page after page of neat, methodical writing, plans, thoughts, rules. If you flip to a blank page, March 22, 23, 47, betrayal confirmed, wife and brother, filmed, location, master bedroom, emotional reaction, numbness, primary directive initiated, collect, observe, destroy, justice, not vengeance, do not lose control. He underlined the last line twice. Then, after a pause, added a footnote. They no longer deserve empathy. They chose this. Every step from now is evidence, cold, rational, final. Then, with a calm that terrified even him, he opened the encrypted app on his phone and backed up the footage to the cloud. And in the silence that followed, Alexei smiled, the kind of smile that has nothing left to lose. Alexei didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in the glow of his desk lamp, fingers moving swiftly across his laptop's keyboard and pen scratching through his journal. His thoughts were methodical, emotions suppressed beneath layers of focus. He wasn't the kind of man who lashed out. He dismantled things from the inside. By dawn, he had already pulled phone records, synced Victoria's text messages to a mirrored drive, and decrypted the cloud backup of Sergei's Instagram account. It turned out Sergei was far more careless online than he was in life, a goldmine of location tags, flirtatious comments, and incriminating late-night selfies with blurred reflections that weren't just his own. He wasn't just looking for proof. He was looking for patterns, evidence that this wasn't a mistake or moment of weakness, but a sustained campaign of betrayal. And he found them. Dinner receipts from restaurants he'd never been invited to, late-night hotel bills paid in cash, messages from Victoria to Sergei that read more like instructions than affection. He's flying to Zurich tomorrow. Be careful with the cameras. Delete the call log. He checks everything. Alexei's eyes lingered on that last one. They knew he watched, and yet they still gambled on his trust. He began tagging each file and message, assigning color-coded labels. Red, betrayal, blue, lies, gray, manipulation. His system grew quickly, as did the digital vault he was building, one that could take apart both of their lives with surgical precision. But the most dangerous part wasn't the evidence. It was how calm he remained. Over the following week, Alexei resumed his routines. He went to work, responded to emails, hosted meetings. But behind the sterile professionalism, he was testing both of them. He left small hints of his early return, a forgotten charger in the hallway, a coat moved from its hook. He watched Victoria pause slightly when she saw the coat, then quickly look away. She was nervous. Good. Then he waited until Sergei showed up at the office, casual as ever, the same smug grin on his face, tossing Alexei a knowing nod as if nothing had changed. Alexei smiled back. But that afternoon, Sergei received an anonymous email at his work account, attached a single photo, not explicit, not graphic, just enough. Victoria brushing her hair, naked, in Alexei's bedroom, the angle, distant but unmistakable, a timestamp, no message, no signature. That night, Victoria would get a similar photo, this time Sergei, shirtless, taking a selfie in Alexei's office chair, another timestamp. No note. Alexei knew what fear looked like, and he saw it grow quietly in their posture, in their eyes. It wasn't the content, it was the implication. Someone knew, someone was watching. Meanwhile, Alexei wrote obsessively in his journal. The tone shifted. Earlier entries were factual, detached. But now, darker thoughts bled through the lines like ink bleeding through thin paper. Justice is clarity, vengeance is chaos. I must not blur the two. I see myself in the mirror, no longer recognize the man staring back. Control is everything, but what if control is just another form of illusion? His entries began including sketches, timelines, connection maps, contingency branches. One page was titled Public Ruin Scenarios, another Emotional Collapse Timetables. Still, a small voice inside questioned his direction. Was he protecting himself or becoming what he despised? But he ignored it. On the surface, everything continued as usual. Victoria smiled at him at breakfast, offered polite affection. Sergei sent texts, memes, jokes, trying too hard. Neither confronted the photos, neither dared ask questions. They were waiting, hoping it was a bluff. Alexei let them believe it was. But each day, the noose tightened. Alexei sat across from a former colleague in a quiet cafe tucked away from the city's noise. The man's name was Pavel. Once an internal auditor for a corporate security firm, now freelance, someone who didn't ask questions unless paid to. Alexei slid a slim envelope across the table. I need everything. Emails, deleted messages, audio recordings, financial anomalies, particularly around these names. Pavel opened the file, eyes narrowing slightly. Victoria? And Sergei? Your brother? Alexei said nothing, only nodded. Pavel gave a slow, skeptical whistle. Family jobs cost more. People get messy when blood's involved. They're already messy, Alexei replied. I'm just organizing the chaos. He left without finishing his coffee. In the following days, Alexei became something else. Not just the man behind the curtain, but the one pulling every string, whispering every doubt, designing collapse like a brutal work of architecture. Victoria's freelance design clients began to cancel projects without explanation. One even claimed her proposal contained plagiarized elements, a tip anonymously sent with attached screenshots. Of course, the borrowed material had been planted days before, subtly, just enough to cast doubt. Sergei's gym, the one he proudly co-owned, suddenly found itself under investigation for tax discrepancies. A disgruntled ex-employee received a forwarded file with evidence of unreported cash transactions. Local authorities launched a preliminary probe. Sergei panicked. Alexei simply watched. But amid the victories, something unexpected emerged. Pavel returned with data that Alexei hadn't anticipated, or perhaps had refused to consider. Victoria hadn't only betrayed him physically. Financially, she'd been quietly siphoning money from one of their shared accounts for over a year. The withdrawals were small, structured to evade suspicion, funneled into a separate account under a false name. There was more. Sergei had taken a private loan months earlier, listing Alexei as an informal guarantor by forging a digital signature, a crime punishable by prison. The documents were saved in a hidden folder on Sergei's laptop. Alexei stared at the screen as the truth sank deeper. It wasn't just infidelity, it was exploitation. He had built a world of trust, and they had carved out their escape through its foundation. Every smile, every I love you, every you're the best brother I could ask for. All of it cover for something calculated. Instead, he picked up his phone and opened a voice memo. Entry 37. Betrayal exceeds initial projections. Intentional financial deception confirmed. Forgery established. Psychological response, numbness mixed with fascination. They weren't hiding love, they were planning escape. That night, Alexei stood alone in front of the bedroom mirror, shirtless, examining the faint scar across his side, an old accident from childhood. He hadn't thought of it in years. Sergei was there when it happened. He was the one who bandaged it. The memory was vivid, sharp, a moment of trust. Now it felt like a lie, too. He opened the wardrobe and pulled out a small velvet box from the back of the shelf, a gift he'd once planned to give Victoria on their anniversary. Inside was a necklace. He held it for a long moment, then quietly dropped it into the garbage bin. Then came the twist, an unexpected voicemail. Hey, Alexei, it's Natalia. I don't know if you remember me. We haven't talked in a while, but I need to speak to you. It's about Victoria. It's important. Call me. Natalia, a friend of Victoria's from her university days. They hadn't spoken in years. Curious, Alexei returned the call. Natalia answered on the first ring. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, she began, voice hesitant, but I've seen things. Victoria, she's not who you think she is. Alexei stayed silent, but she's been talking about you for months, Natalia continued, not with guilt, with contempt. She said you were too perfect, that you made her feel small. She wanted to hurt you, not just cheat. She wanted to break you. Alexei's throat tightened, not from sadness, but from clarity. Why are you telling me this now? He asked. Natalia hesitated because I heard something else, something about Sergei. I think they're planning to disappear together. Soon, the call ended. Alexei stood still, the quiet pressing in. Disappear? He opened his encrypted drive and began uploading new files to a secure second cloud, one Victoria and Sergei would never find. Then he wrote in his journal, "They've already burned the bridge. I'm just lighting the ashes." Days later, Sergei's phone received a message. Unknown number. "You were always second best. Soon the world will agree." Attachment. PDF title, "The Fall of Sergei A." That same morning, Victoria's bank flagged her account for suspicious transfers. By evening, Sergei found a printed photo on his car windshield, the two of them kissing on a balcony, clearly taken from across the street. The message written in black ink on the back, "Smile, you're on camera." Victoria's hands trembled as she entered the living room, her tablet still open to the banking app. The account, the one she thought was safe, hidden, was frozen, 20,000 rubles flagged under review. Her heart hammered. Sergei stormed in moments later, holding a printed document in a wrinkled grip. "Where the hell did this come from?" he growled, thrusting the paper at her. It was the email, the one titled "The Fall of Sergeyev," now making quiet rounds through his investors' inboxes. She skimmed it. Dozens of screenshots, some real, some fabricated, but indistinguishable. Manipulated invoices, shady wire transfers, out of context photos of him at clubs, drinking, kissing strangers. The picture painted was devastating. A man unfit for business or trust. "Is this you? Did you do this?" he accused. Victoria blinked at him. "Of course not. Why would I destroy myself too?" He stared at her with wild eyes. "Then who?" They both knew the answer, but neither spoke it. Naming him out loud would make it real. Across town, Alexei watched the CCTV feed from a tablet in his lap. He had installed a private camera across from Sergei's rented apartment hidden in an electrical box. The live footage showed his brother pacing like a caged animal. Victoria was off frame but shouting, her voice audible through a hidden mic planted months ago in Sergei's duffel bag. Alexei turned down the volume and stared at his reflection in the black screen. What did he feel? Not joy, not satisfaction. It was more surgical, like watching an experiment proceed exactly as hypothesized. His journal, now more manifesto than diary, lay open beside him. If guilt exists, it is merely the last breath of empathy. After that comes silence and freedom. Over the next week, Victoria's life became a slow motion implosion. She lost 2 more clients. The university where she occasionally lectured suspended her pending a reputational review. She suspected someone had sent her private text to the ethics committee. Screenshots laced with vulgarity, snide remarks about colleagues, and worse, mocking messages about her marriage. Sergei fared no better. A blog post posted anonymously and quickly shared accused him of exploiting women at his gym. Fake or not, it went viral. Police came asking questions. 2 sponsors pulled out of his supplement line within 48 hours. They tried to retreat into silence, but silence has echoes. Every glance from a neighbor felt loaded. Every unanswered call, a judgment. They began fighting loudly, constantly. Alexei recorded every moment. He wasn't stalking them. He was preserving truth, he told himself. Control was now his drug. Every move he made, every push of the domino gave him the illusion of power, but it also came at a cost. At night, the dreams started. He saw Sergei as a boy pulling him from a frozen pond. He saw Victoria pregnant with the child they lost, crying in his arms. He saw himself not as a man, but as a shadow, watching their lives from the corner, taking notes. In one dream, he was standing at their funeral, dressed in black. No one else was there. Alexei awoke one morning to find a new message on his burner phone. "No, I know what you're doing. You're not the one who records everything." Attached was a photo, his journal, open on his desk, a page marked with the words, "Phase 4, public collapse." He froze. Now, he checked the locks, the cameras. Nothing was out of place, no break-in, no alerts. Unless his eyes darted to the only person he hadn't suspected, Ivan. The building's aging security guard, Amanda Alexei, had tipped occasionally. Kind, quiet, always watching. Had he seen something? Told someone? Or was this someone else entirely? The moment of control cracked just slightly. Meanwhile, Victoria made her move. She appeared at Alexei's office building late in the evening, long after official hours. Dressed in black, eyes red from crying. She didn't bother pretending. "I know you're behind this," she said, voice raw. "The accounts, the photos, the emails, everything." Alexei looked up from his desk calmly. "You think I have time to destroy your life, Victoria?" Her lips twisted. "You were always a monster. I just didn't see it before." He rose slowly, walked to the window back to her. I didn't destroy your life. I just exposed it." "Why?" she whispered. "You could have walked away. You could have ended this clean." He turned, eyes colder than winter glass. "You made it dirty the day you brought my brother into our bed." She stepped back, but not far enough. "Then what now? You want us ruined forever?" Alexander said nothing. Victoria's next words came like a blade to the ribs. "Sergei wanted to kill you." Silence. She continued, tears rising. "Back in August. We talked about it, not seriously, not like planning, but he hated you. He said, if you ever found out, he'd make sure you didn't talk. Alexei's face remained unreadable. Victoria turned, fled the office, and left him alone with that thought. That night, in a fresh journal entry, Alexei wrote, "They wanted me erased. My only crime was seeing the truth. The question now is simple. If I've already become what they feared, what's stopping me from going further?" The city pulsed outside in soft amber, a distant murmur beneath Alexei's penthouse windows. Inside, silence reigned, the kind that wasn't peaceful but hollow, the calm after destruction. The screen in front of him flickered with muted footage. Sergei collapsed on a gym bench, staring at his phone in defeat. Victoria, pacing her apartment in frantic circles, stopping every few minutes to sob into her hands. They were broken, and he had done it, not with fists, not with threats, but with patience, precision, and something far colder, intent. The consequences were irreversible. Sergei's business had shuddered under the weight of investigation and scandal. Sponsors fled, clients vanished. He'd withdrawn all his money from shared accounts and stopped answering calls. Victoria had lost her reputation, her teaching contract, her clients. Even her parents had distanced themselves, unsure of what was true anymore. Alexandre had raised their lives with a scalpel of truth, sharpened by betrayal and wielded without mercy. But he hadn't escaped untouched. His journal, now heavy with ink and obsession, lay closed on the table. For weeks, it had been his confidant. Now it felt like evidence. He hadn't written in days. Instead, he wandered his apartment in silence, haunted not by guilt, but by emptiness. He had won, but the cost echoed through every corner of his immaculate space. A toothbrush still sat in a glass beside the sink, hers. A photo frame face down on the shelf still held their wedding picture. He hadn't thrown it away. He couldn't. The memories weren't gone, only poisoned. On a cold March morning, Alexei walked into the police station and handed over a sealed envelope to a detective. Inside, evidence of Sergei's forgery, tax fraud, and Victoria's financial manipulation. The officer blinked in surprise. "You're pressing charges?" Alexei shook his head. "No, I'm not here for justice anymore. I'm here to let someone else decide." He left without another word. That night, he received a message. Unknown number. "You think it's over? It's not. Attachment audio file." He hesitated, then played it. Sergei's voice, drunk, slurred, recorded days ago, likely unaware. "He thinks he won. Let him. I've still got leverage. You'll see. If I go down, he goes with me." Another voice in the background. "Victoria?" Hard to tell. Laughter, the clink of glasses. Alexei closed the audio and stared at the screen for a long time. Later that week, he stood alone on a frozen bridge outside the city, a place he used to visit as a teenager when his thoughts grew too loud. He looked out over the dark river, the wind slicing across his face. Not far below, trains roared by in rhythmic intervals, mechanical, relentless. He didn't come here to die. He came here to remember who he used to be. Before betrayal, before vengeance. He lit a match and dropped it onto a small pile of pages torn from his journal. They curled and blackened, letters vanishing in flame. No screams, no regrets, just the sound of paper erasing itself. Days later, he moved out of the penthouse, left behind the furniture, the cameras, the routines, no goodbyes, no explanations. He took only the essentials: clothes, laptop, and one flash drive labeled "in case of silence." He disappeared into the anonymity of a quiet neighborhood. No more suits, no more control, just solitude. And then one evening, while sipping tea alone in his new kitchen, another message arrived. Unknown number. "You're not done, and neither am I." Attachment video. He pressed play. A dark hallway, someone moving past the camera, then a glimpse of himself exiting his old building. A date stamp from days prior. Someone had been following him, watching him. The hunter had become prey. The screen faded to black. Alexei stared at his reflection in the glass. He had survived the fire, he said, but someone else had found the embers, and they were still burning.